Welcome back to session 3, clip 2 of Learning About World Religions. We're talking about Native North American tribal religions in this particular clip, and we're going to be looking also at Australian tribal religions in this clip. Now, as to Native North American tribes, I'm thinking specifically of tribes living north of Mexico in what is today the United States and Canada. I won't repeat our discussion in clip 1 where we talked about some of the terms and defined some of the meanings that we set out for tribal religious categories. You can go back and review that if you haven't done so already. So under the category of transcendence, let's look at deity. Native North American tribes tended to think in terms of the supernatural rather than specifically gods. They did believe in gods, but like African tribes, they saw a supreme being called the high power, the great spirit, or the great mystery as over all. The lesser powers were manifested as spirits or nature persons, often associated with particular animals. They also had a trickster deity associated with the coyote. Looking at myth and ritual, they held that the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west, were sacred. So the land itself was sacred, since only the Great Spirit owns the 4 directions. People only use the land and take care of it. Tribes practiced sacred dance, such as the sun dance, the corn dance, the ghost dance, to gain power and experience vision. Some tribes had a peyote cult to enhance vision and access power. All right, rites of passage. Birth, of course, is the first rite of passage. Much like African tribes, Native North American tribes emphasized the naming ceremony both at birth and then later upon entering adulthood, when a new name might be chosen to designate the person. The umbilical cord was considered a powerful source of life and medicine and might be kept for life as a charm. Initiation to adulthood at puberty was also a major rite of passage. This initiation usually took place in the form of a vision quest. I don't know if you've heard about a vision quest, but it involves fasting, isolation of the young person, physical hardship and pain. In the vision quest, a youth's character would be tested and his or her adult identity might be revealed through a vision. So they would go out and have this vision perhaps, or at least maybe the sight of an animal. And a patron nature person or animal often would come along with their vision. Marriage was seen as desirable. Some tribes practiced polygamy even, especially on the plains of the native North American continent. Woman power was feared as powerful magic for good or evil, and menstruation and childbirth were often occasions when men were absolutely, strictly forbidden to touch or relate to or even maybe talk to a woman during that particular time in her life. Of course, death was feared. Corpses were usually taboo except for certain people at certain times. The dead were to be kept at peace, obviously to prevent their wandering and return to bother people and scare them. Let's talk about roles for Native North American tribal religion. Of course, the shaman was also called the medicine man or medicine woman. They used magical power and spirit access for healing and guidance. Some tribes also had a priest role functioning over an established worship ritual and, of course, tribal ceremonies. Others had a prophet leader who exercised visionary and charismatic leadership over the tribe. I think, for example, of the prophet of the Shawnee during the early 1800s in the U.S. Moving on to Australian Aboriginal religion. It's something a lot of people, especially in North America, don't know about. But let's look at the category of transcendence. They see deity, they have a remote creator, but also remote ancestral spirits of what they call the dreaming. They have myth and ritual. And specifically, as the centerpiece of the myth and ritual is the dream time, which is the supernatural realm that exists alongside normal time. Stories and rituals commemorating the dream time are acted out in costume, with music, with story, with dance. And it's done on regular ceremonial occasions to embed in the minds of tribal members the old stories. These Dreamtime celebrations are called corroborees, and they feature legends of the paradigmatic or model acts of the ancestors, in which the ancestors set the pattern for every aspect of tribal life. Rites of passage. Birth is often regarded as the return of an ancestor back into the land of the living from the dream time, sort of reincarnation back into a child and the dead person back in the tribe. That's at least how they see birth at some points anyway. So at birth, children are given a totem symbolizing their status, their rights, and their duties in the tribe. Initiation to adulthood occurs at puberty. Youths endure a time of isolation and hardship called a walkabout. These are followed by circumcision ceremonies for young men and the scarring of the skin with tribal marks for young women. There are often physical procedures to ready the young adult for sexual relations. Marriage is, of course, desired, but must take place within certain kinship groups, and partners can be changed through a ritual battle between a husband and a challenger. Death is dealt with through mourning rituals and special procedures to make sure, once again, that the spirits do not bother the tribal group. Let's talk about religious roles. Shamans also have access to insight of why things happen and how to live correctly within the tribe. They often act through the spirit contact and the dreamtime experience. Any elder of the tribe may become a shaman and perform rituals. So to wrap up, let's look at some general characteristics of tribal religions. First, tribal religions are oral. That means that the sacred traditions are passed on not through writing, but in the form of oral stories, legends, rituals, songs, etc. The importance of place is common to tribal religions. In tribal life, certain locations have special supernatural significance. These places cannot be replaced, and ceremonies are conducted there for greater power. Let's talk about eternal time. The ever-now, or eternal time, exists apart from ordinary time. In it, the model figures of legends set the patterns for tribal and individual life. Life after death is seen as a shadow existence, paralleling earthly life, and steps are taken to prevent the dead from returning as wandering ghosts. Okay, that was a quick summary of tribal religions. See you the next time when we will look into the religious background of India. Till then, this is your host, Dr. Michael Bogart, for this video series, Exploring World Religions.